If your Chicago mayor doesn't want to help, he can step aside. But if he impedes us, I will prosecute him.
You all have yet to be transparent with that. That's the biggest financial downfall of the city. Yet there has not been any type of audit, any type of financial accounting for illegal immigration.
We're not going to bend or break or cower to someone's threat. We're going to stand up and unite around our shared values.
We have a showdown in Chicago because Chicago's mayor, Brandon Johnson, is apparently running the city like an experiment on how unpopular you can get with a jaw-dropping 15% approval rating. I'm gonna repeat that again, 15% approval rating. And this property tax increase, you think he'll be more focused on, fixing the potholes, fixing crime, something useful. But nope, he's gonna be squaring off with the federal government instead. What could possibly go wrong? Let's get into it. Now, on this channel, we talk about a lot of mayors doing questionable things. It's interesting, a lot of people say that the worst mayor in America is Tiffany Hayden of Dalton, but the Wall Street Journal says that the worst mayor in America is Brandon Johnson. But we also talk about some other mayors as well, talking about federally indicted New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Adams, with all of his issues, is signaling that he's willing to work with the federal government on certain issues, like immigration. They're probably realizing fighting Washington while running a city that's in chaos isn't the best strategy. But Mayor Johnson, he has decided to double down on a bold, different approach. One can generously be described as, well, counterproductive. Instead of seeking compromise or solutions, he's making Chicago ground zero for a standoff with the federal government. Johnson has publicly declared that he will continue supporting undocumented migrants, even if it means losing federal funds.
Also today, with the potential loss of federal dollars for law enforcement if the city won't cooperate with the Trump administration's plans to deport undocumented immigrants, the mayor making it clear Chicago will not be bullied into helping ICE agents.
We're not going to bend or break or cower to someone's threat. We're going to stand up and unite around our shared values, and they have my assurance that I'm going to protect the families of this city.
That's right. In a city already grappling with skyrocket taxes and a massive budget shortfall, he's essentially telling the feds, take your money and go home. But I'm wondering if anyone else agrees with that. And speaking of taxes, let's not forget the $68.5 million property tax increase.
Yeah, and that's because the mayor's budget plan needs 26 votes to pass. And right now it's not clear if the mayor has that 26. Now, Johnson's new plan has now reduced the property tax hike to $68.5 million. It also includes other tax hikes, fines and fees. But while the city's budget office claimed deep cuts were made to the previous plan, critics say new questionable city costs were revealed, like a security detail paid for by the water department and a $400,000 budget for the ceremonial position of vice mayor to pay for photographers and drivers.
That's like saying, hey, we know times are tough, but let's make it tougher for everyone, shall we? The residents are understandably upset. And to make things worse, this clash with the federal government isn't happening in a vacuum. Chicagoans are already grappling with rising crime rates, a public school system that's in need of reform, and a housing crisis that's pushing more families to the edge. Yet, instead of addressing these pressing issues head on, Mayor Johnson seems to be laser focused on shaking his political flag against the federal immigration enforcement. It's a bold strategy, but is it the right strategy?
The stupidity of this administration to think that we don't know any better than to know that you all are going to pass that budget with all those tax increases. The stupidity to think that we don't know that you all could have corrected this stuff a long time ago. The stupidity to think that you all could come with this type of cut, this type of recommendation, and not come with the true accounting of how much money was spent on these illegals.
Now, here's where things get extra messy for Mayor Johnson. Former ICE director and now border czar Tom Homan didn't just stop at criticizing Johnson's leadership. He straight up threatened legal action.
If your Chicago mayor doesn't want to help, he can step aside. But if he impedes us, if he knowingly harbors and conceals an illegal alien, I will prosecute him.
I want to be clear. If you're in the country legally, you're not off the table.
Homan has made it clear if Johnson obstructs federal deportation efforts, he could be prosecuted. Let that sink in for a second. The mayor of one of America's largest cities might face criminal charges for not playing ball with federal immigration authorities. The law here is pretty straightforward. If you knowingly harbor or conceal undocumented individuals, you could be in violation of federal statutes. Holman's warnings wasn't just political theater. It's a reminder that federal law supersedes local politics. So if the feds decide to enforce these laws aggressively, Mayor Brandon Johnson could end up in the courtroom instead of City Hall. Meanwhile, the people of Chicago are voicing their frustrations loud and clear. At this recent city meeting, Chicagoans did not hold back, calling out the administration for what they see as misplaced priorities. Many of them are asking the same question: why is it so much effort being brought on political grandstanding when cities' core problems are being ignored? And honestly, that's a fair question.
You all have yet to be transparent with that. That's the biggest financial downfall of the city. Yet, there has not been any type of audit, any type of financial accounting for illegal immigration.
This hat is a symbol of Bob the Builder building the wall, building it tall around America, around Chicago. We don't want illegals in our community. We don't want migrants terrorizing our own people. And to have y'all sit up here and say we have to accept $70 million being given to them when you got black people who are already struggling and need help, it is a disgrace. It is a disgrace.
They can get the illegals in. You can get them in, you can get them in, Brandon, can you? You can give everything to them, even though I gave you information on how the shelters treat our people, etc. But y'all can build these nice shelters and put them in these nice hotels, you know. But, you know, I got a little stability now. You know what I'm saying?
Let's not forget about that property tax hike that isn't just numbers on paper. For families struggling to make ends meet, it can mean the difference between keeping their home or losing it. And for businesses, higher tax could lead to layoffs and closures, further destroying the local economy. Even some local leaders have started to break ranks, questioning the wisdom of alienating the federal government while Chicago's financial and social issues keep piling up. But so far, the mayor's administration remains defiant, insisting all this is a part of their vision for a more equitable Chicago. Whether residents share that vision is another story entirely. Johnson says that he's protecting Chicago's values by refusing to cooperate with federal immigration policies. It sounds noble if you're progressive, but on the other hand, he's slapping residents with higher taxes and no clear plans to actually solve the city's billion-dollar budget deficit. It's like yelling about saving the environment while dumping trash in your neighbor's yards. It just doesn't add up. And it's not just about the money. Let's talk about safety for a second. With crime already a concern, losing federal funding for law enforcement could mean fewer officers on the streets or fewer resources for public safety programs. Residents are already worried for good reason. Imagine calling 911 and hearing, sorry, we're out of budget, try again tomorrow. And making things even more spicier for Mayor Johnson, some aldermen are stepping into the ring criticizing Johnson's approach. They're saying, hey, maybe we should keep focused on keeping the lights on before picking a fight with the feds.
Among those attending, Chicago Alderman Raymond Lopez arguing for the elimination of Chicago's sanctuary city status.
Change the welcoming city ordinance so that we are not giving sanctuary to those individuals who, once they are here, choose to willingly engage in criminal, dangerous activity.
But unfortunately, it don't seem like the administration, think about 15% approval rating, I guess they don't really care. They're going to continue to double down on this narrative that Chicago is leading charge for progressive values. But it's terrible strategy if your city is financially sinking faster than the Titanic. The big question is, what's the end game here? Sure, taking a stand may win some political points in certain circles, but at what cost? Losing federal funds can cripple essential city services, and pushing property taxes even higher could drive families and businesses out of Chicago entirely. Let's be real. A city can't thrive if the residents are packing up and leaving because they can't afford to live anywhere. It would make sense to me if Johnson wants to prove that he's a leader of the people, he needs to start showing it, maybe by listening to the people, addressing the city's immediate problems, finding real solutions that don't involve playing political chicken with the federal government. Because at the end of the day, Chicago doesn't need a hero or a martyr. They just need a mayor who's willing to put the city's needs first. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this grand strategy of Brandon Johnson will magically fix everything and we'll be all sitting around a few years talking about how great Brandon Johnson is and how he saved Chicago. But until then, though, it's looking more like a game of how much worse can it get. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.